Donald Trump just threw JD Vance under the bus. You won't believe what happened. Let's unpack this.
There are some terrible people being met with awful news themselves, and that includes those in the Trump administration, specifically JD Vance, who got what I might consider almost career-ending news from Donald Trump today with a new announcement that has thrown him under the bus in the most delicious way. So if you have been upset with how bad the news has been, be excited because JD just got some himself.
Well, looks like Donald Trump just played his ultimate Trump card, and poor JD Vance never saw it coming. In a move so ruthless it would make even Game of Thrones villains blush, Trump has decided it's time to grind his own loyal sidekick into political dust. Yes, you heard that right. JD Vance, once Trump's favorite MAGA groupie, has been tossed aside like yesterday's Big Mac wrapper. Is this the slow, messy death of Vance's career, or just another jaw-dropping episode in Trump's endless, low-budget reality show? Either way, buckle up, because the political carnage is just getting started.
According to new reports, the Trump administration is considering forming a task force to look into the potential impact of the tariffs that they have put on China, and of course the tariffs that China has put on us. In other words, Donald Trump wants to make sure that any of the ramifications of his trade war fall on somebody else. And that somebody else, according to these reports, is going to be JD Vance.
Oh, you love to see it. Trump starting a task force just to blame somebody else for his disastrous trade war. Iconic. And guess who's about to wear the scarlet letter for this economic dumpster fire? That's right, JD Human Shield Vance. It's almost poetic. The man who once torched Trump with the rage of 1,000 suns now reduced to his designated scapegoat. Trump's entire political strategy can basically be summed up like this: turn your enemies into lapdogs, then feed them to the wolves when things get spicy. Stay tuned. It only gets juicier from here.
We need a little bit of tariff context from two ridiculous things Donald Trump said today.
Mexico, Canada, they live off it, those two. Without us, they wouldn't have a country. And everybody wants a piece. And at a certain point, if we don't make a deal, we'll just set a limit. We'll set a tariff. We'll set some parameters. And we'll say, come in and shop. They may not like that, and they may find it, or the market may find it too high.
And right on cue, like a bad magician pulling a rabbit out of a flaming hat, here comes Donald, gleefully launching JD Vance straight into the political meat grinder. The weapon of choice, tariffs, but not your average run-of-the-mill tariffs. No, these are the kind of world-ending, wallet-shrinking, business-breaking tariffs that could make even a Wall Street exec cry into his $5,000 suit. And who's about to get blamed for this economic horror show? Ding, ding, ding. It's JD Vance, folks. The man couldn't dodge this bullet if he were Neo from The Matrix.
A single shipyard in China now produces more ships every year than all of the American shipyards combined. Think of that. And it was a business that we used to dominate. We used to dominate it totally. In short, chronic trade deficits are no longer merely an economic problem. They're a national emergency that threatens our security and our very way of life. It's a very great threat to our country. And for these reasons, starting tomorrow, the United States will implement reciprocal tariffs on other nations.
The Trump administration not only is considering forming this task force, but they are going to, if it comes to fruition, put Vice President JD Vance in charge of it and effectively make him what they're calling the tariff czar.
Let's be very real here. When Trump unveiled his brilliant tariff plan, he wasn't just rolling out a policy. He basically pulled the political pin out of a live grenade, hurled it straight at JD Vance, and sprinted for the nearest exit like a cartoon villain. And the timing couldn't be more brutal. JD Vance, in all his infinite wisdom, thought getting cozy with Trump, after calling him every name in the book a few years ago, was a smart move? Now he's finding out that in Trump's world, loyalty is just another thing to be sold off, like cheap MAGA hats at a failing rally. Stay tuned, because the backstabbing isn't even close to over.
But we will charge them approximately half of what they are and have been charging us. So the tariffs will be not a full reciprocal. I could have done that.
And here's the kicker. JD Vance has officially been handed the world's worst job, defending these exploding tire fire tariffs like he's some kind of economic savior. Imagine being ordered to clean up a toxic spill you didn't even cause, then being told you have to smile and pretend it's a sparkling new swimming pool. That's JD Vance right now. Tariffs that are practically guaranteed to wreck the economy. Congratulations, JD. You're now the shiny new face of that train wreck. Good luck selling that hot mess to voters without crying in public.
Well, if you go back a little bit, Lawrence, remember during the first Trump administration, everybody said that Trump's tariffs were going to be inflationary back then. What actually happened? We had 1.5% inflation. We had the fastest growing economy in a generation, and we had the beginning of a manufacturing renaissance in the United States of America. Then, of course, we had 4 terrible years of the Biden administration. But I think it's useful for all of us to step back and ask ourselves, what has the globalist economy gotten the United States of America? And the answer is fundamentally it's based on 2 principles: incurring a huge amount of debt to buy things that other countries make for us. And to make it a little bit more crystal clear, we borrow money from Chinese peasants to buy the things those Chinese peasants manufacture.
You almost have to give it to Trump. The man knows how to turn a political disaster into a full-blown 3-ring circus. And starring front and center under the big sad tent, JD Vance flailing on stage, desperately trying to convince America that Trump's economic grenade is actually a bouquet of roses. Spoiler, it's not. And make no mistake, JD's about to become a laughingstock so epic, even Trump's own base will be popping popcorn to watch the collapse. Because if there's one thing Trump does better than anyone, it's forcing his friends to eat the blame when the ship inevitably hits the iceberg. Let's break it down. Tariffs were always a shaky idea. The theory: jack up prices on foreign goods so Americans buy local instead. The problem: American manufacturers don't have anywhere near the capacity to keep up. The result: sky-high prices, supply shortages, and a looming economic faceplant, all with JD Vance's name stamped proudly on it.
So it's 67%, so we're going to be charging a discounted reciprocal tariff of 34%. I think, in other words, they charge us, we charge them less. So how can anybody be upset? They will be, because we never charge anybody anything. But now we're going to charge. European Union, they're very tough, very, very tough traders. You think of European Union, very friendly. They rip us off. It's so sad to see. It's so pathetic. 39%. We're going to charge them 20%, so we're charging them essentially half. Vietnam, great negotiators, great people. They like me, I like them. The problem is they charge us 90%. We're going to charge them 46% tariff.
And here's the truly hilarious part. Trump probably didn't spend more than 5 seconds thinking about the fallout. He's perched up in his gold-plated tower, issuing economic decrees like he's some 19th century monarch, blissfully detached from the smoldering disaster he's creating. Meanwhile, poor JD Vance is somewhere in a back room, sweating bullets, trying to spin this economic apocalypse into a victory. Spoiler, it's not working.
Powell warned that Trump's tariffs could bring inflation down and could bring greater inflation and slow economic growth. He didn't use the exact word, but what he was describing is stagflation. Investopedia defines stagflation as an economic condition characterized by slowing economic growth, high unemployment, and rising prices or inflation simultaneously. It's a 1, 2, 3 punch, although at least for now we continue to have low unemployment. But inflation and a recession, which then results in higher unemployment, at the same time, that's very...
Let's not forget, it wasn't that long ago when JD Vance made an entire side hustle out of roasting Trump. The man was like a one-man Comedy Central special, dragging Trump's policies, calling them a complete and utter disaster, and torching Trump's ego harder than a 5-alarm fire. JD didn't just throw shade, he launched full-blown solar eclipses at Trump every time he spoke. And now, the plot twist nobody asked for. Instead of sticking to his guns, JD Vance did a full-body 180, shamelessly climbing aboard the SS Trump like it was the Titanic and hoping no one noticed the icebergs. Well, JD, turns out boarding a sinking ship doesn't make you the captain, it just makes you first class when it goes down. Good luck explaining that on the campaign trail, buddy. You're about to star in a real-life political disaster movie, and not even Hollywood could script it this badly.
And my biggest problem with Trump, and there are many, many things to pick out, but my biggest problem with Trump is that his message to the right, especially the white working class of which I came from, is anti-conservative and in some ways anti-American. It's fundamentally that the deck is so stacked against you that unless I'm the president, nothing that you do will change your life's outcomes. I think it's wrong, and I think it's very self-destructive.
It's honestly poetic when you lay it out. J.D. Vance, the man who practically built his political brand by torching Trump at every opportunity, spent years publicly tearing into him, branding Trump as everything wrong with the modern Republican Party. Vance wasn't just some random critic, he was the anti-Trump guy, the one who mocked, sneered, and dragged Trump's ego through the mud with the glee of a late-night host. But then, surprise, the second Trump dangled that shiny piece of political candy in front of him, Vance didn't just roll over. He did backflips into the MAGA parade, waving pom-poms. He saw that golden ticket and thought, who needs principles when you can have power? And now here he is, forced to watch Trump's tariff-fueled dumpster fire ignite the economy, with a front row seat and no exit in sight. Looks like karma just RSVP'd to J.D. Vance's political funeral.
And so one of the takeaways is not just that the Republican Party base is somehow fundamentally flawed in a way that's unique in American political history. It's that Trump is a really bad candidate and, frankly, I think a really bad person.
Trump, because I think that he's projecting very complex problems onto simple villains.
Fast forward to 2024.
I don't hide from that. I was certainly skeptical of Donald Trump in 2016, but President Trump was a great president and he changed my mind. I think he changed the minds of a lot of.
And let's be real, Trump isn't about to throw J.D. Vance a life vest. Oh no, Trump's political motto is basically create chaos, then blame someone else when it blows up. While the economy buckles under the weight of these absurd tariffs, Trump will be chilling somewhere, probably bragging about crowd sizes. Meanwhile, it's J.D. Vance, poor gullible J.D., who gets the honor of mopping up the wreckage. He'll be out there trying to explain why grocery prices are sky high, why small businesses are collapsing, all while Trump pretends he's never even heard of tariffs. If J.D. thought becoming Trump's running mate was his golden ticket to political stardom, buddy, you didn't board the Trump train. You strapped yourself to a rocket headed straight for a dumpster fire.
Displays the incompetence and corruption that is at play here. Now we know the corruption. We're actually going to talk with one of the best Democrats in Congress about that later in this video, so please stick around for that. But the incompetence is clear. Donald Trump doesn't know what the end goal of his tariff plan is. He doesn't know if it's bringing manufacturing back, which isn't going to happen because he lost manufacturing jobs in his first administration.
Honestly, the fact that Trump chose to body slam J.D. Vance with this ticking tariff time bomb is almost too perfect. It's like the universe finally delivering the ultimate I told you so moment. J.D. spent years pretending he wasn't part of Trump's cheap reality show, acting like he was somehow above the chaos. And now he's front and center, juggling flaming swords Trump threw at him. Swords he didn't even ask for. And spoiler, he's terrible at it. You think J.D. Vance has any idea how to manage a global trade meltdown? The man can barely manage the emotional whiplash from watching his hero Trump turn on him faster than a used car salesman sniffing a bad deal. The only thing JD seems capable of these days, squawking Trump's talking points like a MAGA-themed parrot at a clearance sale. Meanwhile, Trump's entire strategy has always been about pretending. Pretend tariffs fix trade. Pretend economic collapse equals sign winning. Pretend basic economics is some liberal hoax. It's like Trump's economic plans are written by someone who's only ever read the back of a cereal box. And now poor JD is the one stuck trying to convince America this dumpster fire smells like victory.
President Trump is taking this economy in a different direction. He ran on that, he promised it, and now he's delivering. And yes, this is a big change. I'm not going to shy away from it, but we needed a big change, Lawrence. We cannot keep going down the Joe Biden globalist pathway where we have $2 trillion of peacetime debt and deficits. We have manufacturing disappearing. That is not working for Americans. We've got to take this country in a different
But folks, it's not just about tariffs. Oh no, this is part of a much bigger, much funnier picture. J.D. Vance, once hailed as the bold, independent voice of the GOP, is now nothing more than Trump's personal political piñata. This is the same J.D. Vance who wrote a whole book about escaping the Rust Belt, finding purpose, building a better life, only to end up groveling for scraps under the sweaty golden thumb of Trump. Now he's out here desperately trying to sell Trump's economic circus like it's a Broadway masterpiece. And honestly, he's about as convincing as a raccoon in a tuxedo. Cute, chaotic, and completely lost. The irony is so thick you could bottle it and sell it as gourmet sarcasm. JD isn't just selling failure. He's doing it with the desperate energy of a used car dealer having a midlife crisis. And trust me, it's only going to get worse.
Now, what I'd say to the American people is look, the president ran on this, and he said very clearly that we're done being the piggy bank of the entire world. For 40 years, in the same way that our European friends, I think, have neglected international security, for 40 years, a lot of our friends all over the world have used America as a piggy bank. They have used us to absorb all of their excess economic production. What does that mean for Americans? For Americans, that's meant manufacturing jobs declining. That's meant middle-class wages going down. That's meant whole towns that have been hollowed out by empty factories, and that means an America that is less safe because our manufacturing isn't as powerful now as it was 30 years ago.
The irony here is so thick you could slice it with a butter knife. JD Vance, who spent years roasting Trump and dragging his chaotic policies, suddenly saw a shiny path to power and didn't hesitate to sell out faster than a Black Friday TV sale. He leapt headfirst onto the Trump train, and now he's finding out it wasn't a train at all. It was a one-way ride straight into political hell. Trump's catastrophic tariff policies are unraveling like a cheap rug, and guess who's left trying to stitch it all back together? Yep, JD Vance. If Vance learned anything by now, it's this: when you suck up to Trump, you don't get loyalty, you get liability. JD played the game, kissed the ring, smiled for the cameras, and now that everything's exploding, he's stuck in the wreckage trying to convince America he's the hero of this mess. Spoiler alert, he's not. He's the designated fall guy, wearing a "kick me" sign Trump slapped on his back months ago.
Here's the thing. Donald Trump's trade war, his tariff policy, all of that is hugely unpopular with the American public, including with Republicans. Everybody hates it. So Trump knows that. He pays very close attention to the polls. We see him whine about them all the time. So he has decided, like, okay, listen, this really isn't about China. This isn't about the possible supply chain impacts, which is what they're trying to sell it as. This is really a way to pass the buck. This is me saying, okay, JD, you're the guy, you're the tariff czar. There you go, buddy. Go tell the people why everything's more expensive now. Tariff czar, that's you.
So yeah, Trump just threw JD Vance under the bus. But let's be honest, Vance was never actually on the bus. He was the guy standing next to it, holding a cardboard wheel, pretending he was driving. Meanwhile, Trump was gleefully flooring it straight into a ditch. Classic Trump. Make you think you're in control and then pull the rug out while the whole circus burns down. Vance probably convinced himself he was Trump's co-star. Reality check, he was barely an extra, a blurry face in the background of Trump's political disaster movie.
It's not certainly to bring prices down. The opposite is in fact happening. And I know when Donald Trump says that he's having great conversations with China, what he means is he's stressed because no one is returning his calls. He is very afraid of what is happening, and JD Vance should be as well.
And now JD Vance is left clutching the sad little crumbs Trump tossed him, abandoned, humiliated, and trapped in a disaster of Trump's own making. Trump's betrayal, as predictable as a rigged game show finale. The plot twist everyone should have seen coming, but JD somehow missed completely. Enjoy the ride, buddy, because it's about to get even uglier from here. Buckle up, you're not starring in a political comeback. You're just another wreckage in Trump's never-ending train crash. And if you think this was brutal, wait until you see what's coming next. You won't believe the next Trump meltdown we're about to unpack.